There's nothing bigger in sport than winning the World Cup.
This is a big one.
In 2018, more than 1 billion people watched the World Cup final. That is 1/7 of the whole population on Earth. It's the holy grail of sport, but it's pretty tough to get your hands on, with only 8 countries ever winning it. So, today's big question that we're asking is, what does it take to win the World Cup? And make sure you stick around to the end of this video, because we're going to be predicting who's going to win this year's World Cup based on what we find out. As I said, only 8 teams have ever won it, and there's even more of a pattern when we look at the finalists. Since the 1966 World Cup, only 9 teams have ever reached the final, and of the 28 final appearances, 25 of them have been made up of Germany, Brazil, Argentina, Italy, France, and the Netherlands.
Boring!
The other 3 with single appearances are England, Spain, and most recently Croatia. So clearly, having footballing pedigree counts for a lot when it comes to the World Cup. But what about the manager? Do international managers make any difference at all? After all, they're working with squads of the most talented players in their country. Sometimes the players even think they know more than the manager does anyway. Well, there are definitely some patterns here too. First of all, and possibly most important of all, you need a manager that is the same nationality as your team. In the entire history of the World Cup, it has never been won by a team with a foreign manager.
And my grandma used to call that stuff foreign muck.
Secondly, have a manager that has won a league title. Since 1994, every World Cup winning coach has won a league title at domestic level. Some of those have been the Brazilian league like Scolari, or the Austrian league like Joachim Low, but every single one of them had a league title to their name before they became manager of their countries.
There was no losing in this fucking house. Do you understand me, Joe Rogan? There's no fucking losers in my fucking house!
And finally, no old managers, please. The average age of a World Cup winning manager is 49, and the majority of managers to win it have been in their 40s or their early 50s. There's been a couple of recent exceptions, with Lippi and Scolari being in their late 50s, but Didier Deschamps, who led France to glory in 2018, was exactly the average age of 49. Clearly, international football is a young man's game. So, managers are important.
That is so important.
Yeah, okay, Pep. But what about the teams themselves? Are they tight-knit units laying their bodies on the line for each other, or are they led by a selfish but brilliant superstar? Looking back at more recent tournaments, there seems to be a split between these two approaches. In 1998, France went down the superstar route. They had a prime Zidane in their team. Fresh from winning Serie A with Juve, getting to the final of the Champions League with them, he led his team to World Cup glory on home soil. 4 years later, it was Brazil this time, with 3 superstars leading the way. But arguably, it was a returning Ronaldo that was the one that inspired them to glory. No, not that Ronaldo. Well, yeah, kind of him.
Cadeira. A enfiada de bola para Ronaldo. Olha a chance, olha o gol. Olha que golaço. Olha o gol. Olha o gol.
There he is. That's the one. Coming back from injury, finishing as top scorer was key for them. And then you throw in an emerging Ronaldinho and a really dangerous Rivaldo with him, and you're making some beautiful salsa. The next 3 winners of Italy, Spain and Germany were more about having a solid team rather than any superstar individuals.
You represent yourself and your teammates. And a name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back. Get that through your head.
In 2006, Italy were one of only 2 countries, the other being Saudi Arabia, that had a squad of players that all played domestic football in their own country. Then in 2010, Spain were made up predominantly of the all-conquering Pep Guardiola Barcelona team, with the rest of the squad largely being Real Madrid players. Then in 2014, the Germany team that won was a culmination of a 10-year project that had started with Jurgen Klinsmann and had been handed on to Joachim Low. He proved great at sniffing out a win. In Russia 4 years ago, France went back to the superstar approach. They did have a hugely talented squad, but arguably it was the emergence of Kylian Mbappe that really took them to the title. His performance against Argentina turned the game on its head, and he also shone in the final. So the lesson here is either have an absolute world-class star to carry you to glory,
You can't rely on anyone these days. You gotta do everything yourself.
or be as strong a team as you possibly can be. And are there any patterns when it comes to goals scored, goals conceded? Well, we had a look at the stats, and since 1998, every single winning team, other than France in 2018, has been in the top 2 teams for average goals against per match in the tournament. So that means that on average, the winning team has only conceded 0.48 goals per game. Being defensively solid is clearly critical. Attacking wise, it's not always the biggest hitters that go on to win the tournament. Again, since 1998, the winners have only been in the top 2 for average goals scored per match half of the time. On average, the winning team is scoring 2.02 goals per game. So you need a goal threat, that's clear, but it's more important that you keep things tight at the back. So, taking all this information into account, on the eve of the World Cup, who's going to win it this year? Let's run through what we've learnt and see if we can predict the winner. So rule 1, having a manager that's the same nationality as the team. So we lose 9 teams here, with the biggest shock being Belgium. Obviously they have Roberto Martinez in charge, who's Spanish, and maybe that isn't such a shock actually, given they thought he was the best person to manage one of the best international 11s ever. Rule number 2, having a manager that has won a league title. There's another 8 teams that we lose here, and there's a couple of big names too. Both England and Argentina are ruled out at this stage. Unsurprisingly, more years of hurt for England, and unfortunately, we're not going to get the send-off that Lionel Messi's glittering career deserves. Rule number 3, the manager age is as close to 49 as possible, and is certainly no older than 60. 4 teams go out at this stage, and this is massive.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The Netherlands are gone, with Louis van Gaal being 71. Portugal are gone, with Fernando Santos being 68. But the biggest shock of all is that Brazil, the bookies' favourites for this tournament, are gone, with Tite being 61. Rule number 4, the team either has a world-class superstar or is a solid unit. So this is where it gets a bit more subjective. Out of the teams left, we're going to take 3 teams through with superstars, and we're going to take 3 teams through that work well as a team.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
In the superstars camp, we've got Poland with Robert Lewandowski, arguably the best number 9 in the world for the past 5 years. We've got France with Mbappe, who now practically runs PSG. And we've gone for Spain. Bit controversial this one, but we think this could be the breakout tournament for up-and-coming Barcelona star Pedri. Looking at the teams working as a unit, we've gone for Denmark, buoyed by the return of Christian Eriksen, an incredible qualifying record and a great performance in the Euros. We've also got the Germans. A strong squad based mainly in Germany puts a great blend of youth and experience together. Now this is a controversial one again as well. We felt the Croatia squad was a little bit too old and some of their top players are past their best. So we've actually gone for Uruguay on this one. There are some veterans in there, Suarez, Cavani, Diego Godin, but they're still performing quite well, and that's mixed with some real wildcard youngsters like Darwin Núñez, Valverde from Real Madrid, and Bentancur. So, now rule number 5. The average goals against is around 0.5 per game, and the average goals scored is around 2 per game. We've looked at 2022 results only, and out of the 6, Denmark and Poland are really struggling to make the grade here. Both of them well over the 1 goal conceded per game, and they're not scoring enough either, so they're ruled out straight away. Germany have got an incredible average goals scored, up at way over 2.5, but they're conceding over 1 goal per game. So we're going to have to rule them out because we know how important being defensively solid is. So that leaves us with France, Spain and Uruguay. Again, given how important goals conceded are, that's the key stat we're going to be looking at. And amazingly, that puts Uruguay on top. They've only conceded 0.5 goals per game this year, which edges out both Spain and France with 0.6 and 0.8 respectively. If you look at the goals scored, Uruguay are actually pretty close to 2 per game as well, coming in at 1.8. Although you'll see France's is far superior to the other 2 teams. But if we are looking at the stats alone here, we could have a shock result on our hands, and the winners of the World Cup this year could be Uruguay.
That's the dumbest thing you could have said! What are you, an idiot?
However, given the football pedigree and the fact that Spain have been to the final before and France have been to a final before, we think they're going to really run them close. But we would put our money on one of those 3 coming out on top. What do you think? Can Uruguay win the World Cup? Have we got this completely wrong? Is there anything else that we've missed that makes a World Cup winning team? Let us know in the comments, and if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe for more of football's big questions.